So welcome back, and thank you so much for joining me again today. Now, before we get started, I just want to give a couple of quick shout outs. The first one's going to go to BAD Fluppy. Flup, thank you so much for subscribing. Flup's been with me for a little while, and he always leaves me nice comments on the videos, and it means the world to us content creators. So I really do want to thank you, Flup. I hope you're doing well, my friend. And as I said, those kind of comments let us know that there are people out there watching and getting something out of the videos and learning and all the rest of it, and it just means the world to us content creators. So I do want to thank Flup. And there's one other person, Vic Vorti. Vic has been with me basically from the beginning, back in the Doom 3 editor days. He's from Bulgaria, very nice guy. We've exchanged a few emails on that. Haven't heard from him for a little while, and I hope he's doing well out there, Vic. So my friend, thank you so much for sticking with me, and all the best to you too. And I'd like to thank all my subscribers. Thank you so much. A heartfelt thank you to all of you for supporting the channel. It really does, I say, mean the world to us content creators, and it inspires us and really keeps us going to keep making the videos. So. And if you've been following along and you haven't subscribed yet, please press that button. Again, it really does help us out and gives us a lot of purpose to carry on. So there it is. So today what we're going to look at is a very simple proximity triggered door, and here's what it looks like. So when we walk up to it, it kind of opens for us, and then when we walk away from it, it closes for us. And doors are quite an expansive topic because, gosh, you know, they can slide left and right, up and down. We can rotate them. We can do all kinds of variations with respect to the movement. We can have multi-part doors. We can add sounds, and then how to trigger them as well. I mean, is it just a proximity trigger? Do you have to press a key? Do we have to find a key or some sort of code or something? Or plug in some code. So there's all kinds of different ways to make doors. We're going to keep it really simple just to get us started today. Kind of this, as I say, a proximity tripped door. So we'll look at that today. And then once we get those fundamentals, I mean, this will be probably a later video, but you know, a secret passageway we can do as well. We're not going to look at that today, but that's in the future once we get these fundamentals down. So let's get into this and jump into a map here real quick. So we're just going to start off with our map work first. So I'm just inside a little map here that I created. Nothing special, just to get us started here. Now I have to say off the hop that this is probably not the best way to build a door. We're actually going to build it inside the level blueprint. And I'll show later why that's not the best way to do it, but I think this is the simplest way. So we're going to build it this way today. And as I say, a little bit later in the video, I'll explain why this is probably not the best way to do it. Now, first thing we're going to do is I just created a little file folder here for myself, and I created a couple little static meshes. And the first one I did as a door, and you can use obviously any door. You can use a fancy one or import some assets or build your own in a 3D modeling program, but there it is there. And just really quickly, I'm not going to explain how to make static meshes, but we'll look at it real quick. So example, if we're up here on modes, mode here in our geometry, and we just drag in a box, all we have to do is select that box. And if we go down here, this is probably going to be closed for you, but if you look in the brush settings and you open this little show advanced tab, you just create the static mesh there, and you probably want to put the materials on first. Just create the static mesh, and there you've got a mesh. So it's really simple. I'm not going to look at that too much detail today, so let's get rid of that. So that's how I made that door static mesh. And first thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to just rename it here up here. If we look, and I'm just going to call it a Tom door. Now I use Tom a lot here, not because I like to see my name, but just because it lets me know what the asset is really quickly. So there it is there. So let's create that door. Now I did make another static mesh and kind of this sort of wall thingy here where this door can fit into. So let's go ahead and place that in the map. Now one thing you do want to do is you want to make sure that your door is not as thick as your wall. And let's just align this, and I'll show that real quick why. So let's just make sure it should fit perfectly in that hole, which it does there. There we are. And here's the top view, and I'm just going to put it right in the middle of the wall. And we can see that the door is actually not as thick as the wall, and that's important. And here's why. Like if it's exactly the same thickness, or if it's on the same plane as the wall, when we do slide it open, what's going to happen is we're going to get this, and we don't want that. All right, so we want to make sure that our door is actually thinner or not as thick as the wall, and we want to kind of place it in the middle there. So just when it does slide open, it you know, it's not going to create that sort of plane fighting there for us. So there's that. And then the last thing we want to do is put in a box trigger. So let's go up here and let's just filter for box trigger. And there it is there. And let's go ahead and place that. And this is the area that the player is going to stand in, which is going to activate the door. So we probably want to make it a little bit bigger. So let's hit our R key for our scale. And then let's make it quite thick. And you're going to have to mess around a little bit with the size of this trigger just to make this work properly. But I'm just going to scale it here to be quite large. And let's get that to fit in the door. All right, there it is there. A little wider maybe. How's that looking? Pretty good. Maybe a little bit more wide. Again, you're going to have to play with this. Just game test, and you'll see what kind of size works. And let's just get it positioned there. And I'm just going to rename that real quick. So there's that box trigger. And let's go ahead and rename that. So let's select it. If we can, let's go to World Outlier. To select things that you can't necessarily click on, you can always come in the World Outliner. So let's select that trigger box and let's rename it. And we'll call it Tom Trigger. There we are there. Now, one thing we do want to do real quick here is with the door. Let's go ahead and hide this and hide that trigger just for now. And a couple things, a couple things I do want to, well, let's hide that trigger if we can grab it here, trigger. Just hit the H key for hide. I haven't got the materials all over it, so let me just fix that real quick here. So let's go into our starter content, into our material folder. Let's just make sure the materials are all on all the edges. Just when it opens, we haven't got that dev texture. I should have probably did that when I made the mesh, but there it is. One other thing we want to do is when the door is selected, we want to come down here and make sure that this movable is clicked. If we forget to do this, the editor will give us an error because obviously we want the static mesh to be movable. I'm going to unhide everything, Control H, there it is there. And that's pretty much our map work. So what next we want to do is we're going to, as I say, build this door actually in the level blueprint. And what we want to do is come up here to blueprints and this open level blueprint. So let's pop that open. Now that window is going to maximize. One thing we can do is we can grab the little tab up here where my mouse is circling, left click, drag it, and then let's dock it right up here. And this way we can go back and forth from our map into this level blueprint. So we're ready to go. There's a couple there to get us started. We don't need this event tick, so let's get rid of that, and then let's just minimize that comment. All right, and then we're ready to start visually scripting this. So let's have a look at how to do that. So the first thing we have to do is we have to basically tell the engine the initial position of the door. Now, although we've placed it in the map, it doesn't really know where it is, and also our animation is going to need a starting point. So that's the first thing we're going to set up. So let's go back into the map here real quick. Let's make sure our door is selected. Now if we can jump back here, what we can do is we can right mouse button and then here create a reference to Tom door. Because we have it selected, it's going to give us this option. So go ahead and left click that, and that gives us a reference from that door. So that's the first thing we want to do. Now let's left mouse button here, drag this out, and let's search here for get actor location. There it is there. Oh, we misspelled it. Okay, there it is there. And then off of this, we want a left mouse button, drag this off of here, and then promote to variable. We want to click that. And let's rename that. Let's call that door initial position. Door initial position. There we go. Just so we kind of have it labeled and we know what it's doing. Last thing we have to wire up is go from this event begin play and just drag that into here and connect that there. Let's grab them all. Let's comment this. So C for Charlie and door initial position. Now I'm not going to explain what all these nodes do just because the videos are going to end up being far too long. You guys are smart. You just follow along what I do, and if you wire this up correctly and you're careful to follow along, you'll get this door doing exactly what you need it to do. So that's our door initial position. So the next thing we want to do is, well, we can compile this, I guess. Let's go back into our map and let's select that Tom trigger. Let's go back into this blueprint here. And because we have that trigger selected, if we right mouse button, this will give us a add event for Tom trigger. Let's expand that by clicking here. Let's expand this collision, and we want to add on actor begin overlap. Let's put one of those in. Let's deselect it. Let's deselect it. Let's go back in there, add event for Tom trigger, expand that, expand the collision, and add on actor end overlap. Let's put one of those in there as well. Now, the other thing we want to put in here is a timeline. If we right mouse button, we can do this a couple different ways. If we scroll down here, here it is here, we can just left mouse button there, click that, and that'll put it in. Or we can search for it. So let's add timeline. There it is there. Let's put that guy in there. And let's rename that timeline, I don't know, door movement. Let's select that. Whoops. I just want to rename it. Come on now. Here we are. Door movement. There we go. Just so we kind of have some labels and we're not fishing around for stuff. Okay, there that is. Let's just zoom in. So when the player overlaps that trigger, we want to play this animation that we're going to set up in a moment. So left mouse button, drag it and release it to the play, and then we'll do the same thing. So when the player leaves the trigger, it's going to reverse that animation. So let's just hook that up there like that. So done. Now the fun part. Let's double click this door movement, and then it opens up this little graph here, and we can flip back and forth here, which is kind of nice. So in this little door movement, what we want to do is we want to hit this vector track, add vector track. Now, one thing we want to do is, just to kind of sort out the direction of this, if we go to the Tom door, what we want to do is we want to slide it this way. Just in this example, we're sliding along, well, it's green, so that's going to be our y-axis. And we can do that to determine the distance a couple different ways. Now we can either note the position here, which is where my mouse is circling, minus 810. We can take it to its finished position, leave a little bit of a lip, minus 530. We can do the map and determine our distance that way. Another way we can determine the distance, if we just go into our orthographic view, and there's our door selected. We can use our little measure tool, and we can just left mouse button here and drag it across, and we can sort of see the width of our door, which is 300. So if we determine a distance of 300, that door will disappear right into the wall. So let's make it a little bit smaller than 300. So this is just determining the length of the movement that we have to do, as well as the direction. So let's just go back here into this. All right, so what we want to do, let's go back into this timeline. And we're moving along the y-axis. So for now, let's you can do combination moves through all three axes, but for now we're just going to use the y one. So let's lock the x and hide it. Let's lock the z and hide it. And there we are. And our timeline's got a green line, which represents our y-axis. So in here, what we want to do is we want to shift left mouse button, yeah, and it adds a keyframe. You can see it's selected because it's yellow. And let's determine a time, and usually your first keyframe you want 0, 0. So let's go ahead and put in 0, 0. There that is, hit enter. There's our first one. Let's add another one. So we're going to go shift left mouse button. There's the other one. We'll just shift it over here for now. When it's selected, the first thing is time. How long do we want the door to take to open? We'll just throw in something for now. Let's say 2 seconds. And then that distance, remember that the door is 300 wide, we want a little bit of a lip, so let's put 280 in there. Let's hit enter. So it's disappeared. What we want to do is if we click up here, zoom to fit horizontal and zoom to fit vertical, if we click those, we can see both the nodes. This one's already selected because it's yellow. We're going to control and left mouse button and click this one as well, just so both are selected. Then we're going to right mouse button. We're just going to hit this auto for now. What this does is it smooths out the movement, so it kind of eases in and eases out, and that way the movement's kind of nice and fluid, and that's kind of nice. So that we always want to kind of do that for our animations, not always, but most times. Last thing we want to click here is use last keyframe, just because we want it to stop on that last keyframe. So let's go ahead and click that. I'm going to compile that, and we'll save. It never hurts to save. All right, so there we are. Let's go back into our event graph. So we've got this movement set up, and we've also told it where the door's initial position. So we just have a couple more things we have to do here, and we're almost ready to try this. Let's go up to this Tom door reference here, and let's hit Control C. Let's come down here, and let's hit Control V, and we're just going to copy that door reference. There, that is there. So let's zoom in a little bit. Let's grab this left mouse button, drag this out, and what we're going to put in here is set actor location. Let's put that in there, left mouse button, and click that in there. All right, so there's that. Now what we want to do is, if you remember, we did make a variable here. So where is it here? Let's see here. There it is there. Okay, and then we made that door initial position variable here, and we've got it here. So what we can do is we can left mouse button, drag it in, release, and then we want to get initial position. So let's put that guy in there. All right, so there's that. Now what we want to do is drag out here, and let's just put a plus key. Let's just filter by plus key. So shift plus, and we want to go vector plus vector. Let's put that in here. Now just to clean this up a little bit, I'm not going to explain why I'm doing this, but I would strongly recommend to do this. Let's break that link and let's put it down here. Okay, there we go. So let's connect that like so. Now we want to go from new track here and put this down here to there, just like so. That's done. Our door is hitting our target, so that's correct. And I think we only have one more, well, a couple more that we have to connect here. So this update tab here, we want to connect to here, like so. And we're missing something here. So our door goes to our target. This is set there. Okay, so for our vector to vector, we want to hit from there to this location, just like so. All right, so you want to wire up that basically like that. Again, I'm not going to explain all that because that's going to take forever. Let's grab all those. Let's put a C for Charlie comment, and let's put here door animation. There we go. And let's go ahead and compile that and save that. So if we've wired up that correctly, now our little door should work properly. So let's go into our map. Let's hit play. And if we enter that box, there it is. Okay, so there it opens up. Now, one thing is it's kind of tweaky in that you can see if we go in and out, it kind of does that. That's kind of ugly, so let's just fix that real quick. Let's hit the escape key. Let's go back into here. So what we want to do here, let's just expand this real quick. And let's drag this out a little bit more. We're going to put a little delay in here. So let's just right mouse button here, left mouse button. We're going to go break the link. We're going to drag out of here. We're going to just search for delay. Let's just put in a simple delay. So left mouse button there. I don't know, the value, let's say 1 second, hit enter. And then let's drag this out and connect it to the reverse. There it is there. So let's compile, let's save. Now if we go back into our map and we play, it's going to delay a little bit once we leave the trigger. So once we leave the trigger, a second later, then it closes. And that kind of prevents that flip-flopping. So there it is. Now I know we flew through it a little bit quickly, but again, if you just follow along and wire it up the way we've shown, way I've shown you, you're going to get that door to work for you very nicely. So there it is for a simple proximity triggered sliding door. So earlier in the video, I said that this was not the best way to build a door. And the reason being is that, for example, if we want to add another door into our level, basically we'd have to rebuild all this. And then also we'd have to basically do a sequence node here between our event begin play because we only have one event begin play per level. So it gets a little bit complicated. The best way to do this would be to actually create a blueprint, dedicated blueprint door. Because right now in the map, if I wanted to well, have another door, I can't just copy and paste all this over. It's just not going to work properly. I'd have to actually rebuild another door, another wall, and everything else. I'd have to come back in here and rebuild this entire door animation for the second door, and then I'd have to sequence this out here and put all this in again for the second door. So not the way to do it. If we actually built the dedicated blueprint for a door, we can just turn around and drag as many in as we want in the map, and if we wire it properly, it doesn't even matter which way we rotate it, and its orientation and the way it moves would all be consistent. So just a bit of a caveat that, again, this is not the best way to build a door because we're basically doing it here on the level blueprint. Rather, if we actually built a dedicated blueprint for our door, that way we can just grab multiples and slap them in our map. If we needed, you know, a dozen doors in the map, it's much easier to actually build a dedicated blueprint. We'll look at that in a later video because it's a little bit more complicated, but I think just to get us started, this is much easier just to put it into the level blueprint. So there it is.